Welcome to our weekly webinar sessions. So today we have with us Dr. Esha Vaish, and Dr. Esha is PGY2 Internal Medicine Resident at Mount Sinai Morningside in New York City. She completed her undergrad from King George Medical University in 2022, sharing the HOU ideal that every person has a story to tell and a lesson to teach. Esha is always open to discuss her success and failures. Being one of the co-founders provided her opportunity with an opportunity to do so and facilitate the same for others. She envisions building a strong, close-knit community of Indian IMGs in the USA. Living in the hub of Manhattan, she is having a roller coaster of experiences as she is exploring both her life and career. She works a little more, but outside of medicine, she indulges in various activities such as frequent picnics, reading, cycling, sketching, painting, dancing, exploring restaurants, bars, and clubs, and a lot more. So, we are very excited to have with us Dr. Vaish, and I'll transfer the spotlight to her. Over to you, Dr. Vaish.
Thank you, Harshita, for that introduction. And I wanted to ask, is this a whole seminar about everything from where I began my entire journey from the beginning? I suppose that's what it is.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if
from day one.
Oh, from day one.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing would be how I decided about starting USMLE. Honestly, I was very clueless. I was in my first year. I had just matched into medical school. Matched, I'm saying, when it was like I got into medical school. One of my mentors from before briefly mentioned, "Hey, you should think about USMLE." I didn't pay much attention to it, but then first year of college, I was like going through highs and lows, experiencing. I wasn't in any serious mood to pursue any career path. But some of my friends, the circles that I was hanging out in, started talking about USMLE. So this wasn't King George's Medical University. It wasn't much of a tradition there. Only one of my seniors in 2013 batch, I was from 15, was doing it. So I talked to him about it. I talked to some of my other colleagues who were planning on doing it about it. And eventually, slowly, I felt like this is a good option, right? Honestly, not a lot of thought went at first into this. I just was doing it because some of my friends were doing it. That's kind of silly, but then I was 19. So that's how I started it. And as I started doing it, I realized that I'm liking this more. I have watched a lot of YouTube videos and things like that, the perks of the US healthcare system and whatnot. And slowly I was like, maybe I'll be more suited in a workplace like that. That's basically how it happened. It was so long ago, I don't remember a lot of details, but I know that I started on it eventually. Second year of my med school went by. I didn't do much about it because all I knew was that you give that like two-step exam. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that there were two-step exams and you had to do some USCs and whatnot. But I was like, those are things of the future. I don't have to worry about that right now. So third year, so first and second year, I just let it go by. Third year, I started preparing for USMLE step 1. And I didn't have a lot of material or any guidance. It's just that as I said, there was one senior who was doing it in the like 2 batches above me, and he gave us one of my colleague, me and my colleague, some Kaplan videos. They were old, but they were my best option because I didn't want to spend too much money on it. So I started watching the Kaplan videos. I had already read the first and second year of college. I had always studied those subjects through the standard books. So it was not that hard to grasp. So I watched a few Kaplan videos. I revised my first and second year of medicine again. I remember I wrote things down. I studied my pathology entirely from Robinson Cotran. I studied my pharmacology from Lippincott. For microbiology, I used something called clinical microbiology made simple because that was one subject I could not wrap my head around. And the Indian microbiology is not the same as the US microbiology. It's like very different. So I had built my basics through these. And then in third year, I watched a few Kaplan videos, did my UWorld. I think that is what took most of the time. doing the UWorld. I did it for 6 to 8 months. Balancing it with third year of med school was difficult because you have to go to classes, and my batchmates were not being very nice about it. You would want to skip a few classes to do more UWorld because otherwise it's like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you're exhausted. But I didn't get a lot of support from my batchmates. Amidst all of that, it took me 6 to 8 months to prepare for the step one, and I finally gave it at the end in December. And the scores were not so bad, but I was not very happy with it because between the time when I started step one preparation and by the time I ended it, my investment in USMLE had changed a lot. I was a lot more invested. I was a lot more serious about it towards the end because in the meantime, I was talking about it more and more to other people. So the results were good. I scored, at that time, it was a scoring system. So I scored like 247, but I was not very satisfied. I was expecting a 260 or something. I was like, okay, I have a very competitive like streak within me. So I was like, I'm not happy with it. So I was like, I'll do something about step two. I became even more serious. Like, how do I prepare for step two so that the disaster doesn't happen the way it did in step one? I think in hindsight, my biggest issue with step one was that I had not realized that 8 hours of exams are difficult. Sitting for 8 hours, and a person as me who is very agitated at baseline can't sit in one place. I should have practiced sitting 8 hours, but I did not. I think that was my biggest weakness in step one, not the preparation itself. I'll discuss later how I did my preparation for both step one and step two. It's basically similar. Then final year, because final year is difficult itself, so I solely focused on the final year itself. I did not try to prepare for anything. I just knew that these subjects that I'm going to study I'm going to study them for the last time. So I just focused on studying them. Medicine, I knew I'm going to do for the rest of my life, so I didn't bother much with that. I just read, there's a small booklet for Harrison. I read that, and just to make sure that my concepts are strong, it summarizes a lot of things. I didn't have time to read the whole Harrison. For surgery, I read from Bailey and Love, and our head of department was very fixated on it. And that was another reason. For OB/GYN, and another one of the standard books, I do not remember, but I know I read the whole booklet. For pediatrics, it was Ghai. So except medicine, I read the standard books of all the subjects just because I wanted to in final year. And I had done this before. The reason why I always make sure that I've read the standard books is because it builds your basics versus help books, which help you learn stuff in a quick and easy manner. They also have their use, but building basics is kind of important, which is why I always gravitated back to these books. Anyways, once final year was over, oh, by the way, towards November of final year, November, October, actually, I had started preparing for USPs. I had learned from my seniors, okay, you have to go for these USPs, collect some LORs. You want to do it in your internship because otherwise, only then can you do electives. So I started looking up universities. I got a list of university places from my senior, and I looked them up. I looked when the application opened and what their requirements are, and I started building them up. So ACLS, BLS, TOEFL, yeah, everything. And by the end of final year, which was probably March, yeah, it was March of 2021, I was ready to apply to all the places. It was 2021, right? It was, I think, 2021. So okay. Anyways, yeah, it's a long time ago. So
yeah, you graduated in 22, so maybe it was 21.
Yeah, it was 2021,
yeah.
Right? I remember that because everything was shut down because of COVID. It was I was panicking in my room because I was like, I need these electives. If this COVID has hit, pandemic has come, people are dying, but for how long will this go on? Because I have to at one point do these USCs, and what I just didn't know what was going on in my life because there was a lot at stake. By that point, Minister also mentioned that I'm the only doctor in my family. Nobody else is a doctor. And nobody knows about the medical system, let alone US system. And being my parents' elder daughter, elder child, and a daughter, it was very difficult for my parents to grasp the fact that I want to practice, like go away and practice in the US. And by this time, they were probably getting feeling that okay, this is real. By this time, by the time I was giving my step 1 and step 2, they were being very supportive. I think it had not hit them that she's gonna go away. But by this time, when I started talking about USCs and going to the US, and they were like, "You're going to the US?" I'm like, "What do you think I've been doing all this time?" Anyways, so at the same time, I was like trying to talk to them about this as well, you know. So it was very difficult for me when the rest of my batch was graduating, going into internship, and they would give their PG exam and would start at a certain postgraduate something training. And I was like, I don't know how long this thing is going to be held up. And I had no answers to my parents. And most of all, I did not want to give up because by this point I was quite invested. To me, Indian PG was not an option, right? It was not an option because I didn't see myself working in that system. It would just not suit me. I knew that. I would have. I often say this: if I would have worked in the Indian system, I would have gotten fired by day 5 because I just can't handle the toxicity, and I would definitely talk back or fight back or do something and get fired by day 5. Yeah, I would do. That would have been a reality. So, I knew that I cannot go back. I was quite stubborn about it. And I was like, how do I go forward? There was no going forward. The world had come to a halt. And I decided that I tried a lot. For the next, I think, 4 to 5 months or so, I tried, like, still sending more applications and whatnot because I had prepared for those. And every place was closed, and I was still trying my best. And then I was like, and the COVID situation was not getting any better. Now we know it lasted for quite some time. So, but in hindsight, I didn't know what was going on. So in the end, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break from USCs. I'm just going to focus on step 2. I had not started on my step 2 all this time. So I took a break from all the USCs, put everything aside. Even though some people, like I was in a lot of groups, people kept saying, you keep hearing people that, okay, like maybe this place is accepting, that place is accepting. There was a lot of helter-skelter. Like the situation was not good. Everybody was in the same boat as me. So I just decided to mute all the noises and focus on step 2 preparation, which I did. I prepared for it for 6 months or so. 6 months or so, yeah, because I think it was 6 months or so. And then I gave the exams and I was very happy because after trying to fight the situation, I just decided to use it. The whole COVID situation, I used it as a retreat. I used it to I was doing internship, by the way, on the side. I mean, it was not a lot of internship. We were just going there and filling up paperwork for COVID people, donning all those marks and stuff and doing training and whatnot. That's what interns were doing. Just doing that, coming back to my hostel and just focusing on, like, I just completely isolated myself and tried to stay happy with my step preparation, which I did. I did it for 6 to 8 months, and then I gave the exam, and the results were quite satisfactory. Scored 263. And now I'm a person who always has a breakdown during exams, always, since school, my NEET entrance exams, my step 1. I've never come out of an exam and said, oh, it went well, or I'm feeling good. I've always been a mess. But this was probably even TOEFL. I mean, I scored 117 on 120, but still I came out and I was jittery, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fail this exam. I'll have to give it again. It went well. So I think this was probably the first exam where I was like, no, I'm confident in my performance. And I think a lot of it was because I chose the COVID period to isolate myself from everything else, from all the problems that were surrounding me in my life, both personal and otherwise. And I just focused on one thing, and I felt confident about it. And that I carried it with me in the exam. I gave the exam. I came out. My mother was like, "You look so calm. You've never looked calm after an exam." It's like, because I feel good. And then the scores came back. I scored 263. mean, I took maybe a month or two of break after this, and I went to live with my friend because the COVID situation was still going on. And I was like, now what? I still have USCs to do. Now, this was around the time when I was like, what should I do? This was around June, July, August of 2022. And I was like, what should I do? The application season is opening. And ideally, my timeline was that at this point, I would have been done with USCs as well. And I would start applying in the September. Like I would apply in September. That was my timeline of 2022 that I would apply, but it did not happen. And a lot of people suggested that you have good scores and you should still apply. Now, this was not an option because I mean, people did apply without USCs with those the virtual ones. There was like virtual elective of the rotations. Yeah, but that virtual, they were all virtual. I didn't want to spend money on that because I was, and it just didn't feel right. That's what I would say in hindsight. My gut feeling said that this is not right. And if I'm going into another healthcare system, USCs are also a way to find out, to go to that place, to another country and find out, do you fit in? Because trust me, while I was here for USCs, I met other people who were doing USC. Some of them were like old friends, connections here or there. And some of them just didn't like it here. They realized after they came here, they were doing the USCs, sitting in Miami, on the beach talking with me. They were like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling like, I mean, you have everything back home and whatnot. Why would I want to come here? So that can still happen. That can still happen. So it's very important to come and see the life here, the people, and like, it's just a gist of what you will see, you will get, what to expect. So I think it was, in my gut feeling was that it is kind of important to come all the way here. So I decided to skip the 2022 application cycle and I went. So those were like 3 or 4 months. Again, still, all this time I got an application acceptance from University of North Carolina. It was in December of 2022. And I was like, oh my God, I'll never get this because I still don't have a visa. It was a very depressing situation, but I was like, fine. I had to let go of this USC because it was in January. Obviously, I had no visa. I let it go, and I was just living by myself, just trying to stay peaceful. Just cooking by myself, reading a book, whatnot. I was just trying to stay calm. Finally, in March or so, I got an appointment for a visa. I mean, the most distressing part about my whole journey is probably the visa issue because of the COVID-19. I got my visa. I came to the US. I had only one USC at the time. It was very expensive. It was a Florida International University. The quality of it is not very good, but at that time, IMGs did not really have an option because no other university was accepting. My university had some sort of memorandum of understanding and things like that with Texas Tech University and other universities, but they were still not accepting. Imagine that, having a student exchange program and still not being able to use it was very distressing. Letting go of the UNC because of lack of visa. I was like, fine, FIU is my option. It's very expensive. It's not a good option, but I did it anyways. Not a waste of time. I loved Miami. Loved Miami. I lived there for a month. And then while I was here, I had to arrange for I had planned a trip for a complete of like 2 or 3 months. But I had USC for only one. So I had to arrange the other two. After that, I met other medical students who told me, okay, New York is a good place to go for USCs. And when you can always get one of those paid rotations. I was like, I don't know. I didn't want to do that, but there's no other choice. So I did. The next thing I did was come to New York and start at one of those paid rotations from, I don't know who. I don't remember. But I know the doctor with whom I rotated, he was a faculty at Mount Sinai. He was a cardiologist, and and I and he approved of me a lot. So that was a good experience. Living in New York, it completely scared me. The first time I was in New York for 4 weeks, I didn't get out for the first 2 weeks except to go to the clinic and back because I just didn't like it. It was scary. I'm a small town girl. I'm from Gorakhpur in Uttar Pradesh, right? So even Delhi was scary to me. And then this was New York. So for the first 2 weeks, I just went to my rotation, came back, was not liking it. And then the third week, I started hanging out with some friends and I felt better. Around this time, I also heard people talking about, okay, what about the application and whatnot? I had no idea about that. Every step of USMLE, I had only taken off one step at a time. I never knew the whole thing. And now people have like 2 months of USMLE. I'm glad because now people can get an idea of like how things look in distant future. I had no idea what people were talking about, what application, like what is the ERAS application, what the token and whatnot. I was like, okay. I talked to more and more people, learned about it, and I was like, I would need a mentor. I was like, I cannot do this thing without a mentor. The time of application, if the application comes in, I wouldn't know what to do. So I was like, I need a mentor. And I had heard from about Dr. Mansoori from Gaurav Vibhor, another person I had just met through these chats for USMLE. So I reached out to Dr. Mansoori, and Dr. Mansoori is very, very receptive, given that in hindsight, how busy he is. And I don't know how he does it, but I reached out to him and he made time for me. We had a conversation over a phone call, and I was like, he listened to my profile and he was like, you don't really need mentor. I mean, you can apply and you will match. I was like, I don't care. I don't think I will. Right. So I really need somebody who can help me put things properly. I mean, I had risked a lot, had come too far to not be cautious with the actual application. So Dr. Mansoori took me under his wing, eventually introduced me to the rest of the crew. It was awesome. He helped me he has his busy schedule, but he makes time and he always gives the right input. So he helped me with my application, not exactly spoon feeding, but every time I needed, he would like just gently nudge me in the right direction that I needed. So that's exactly what a mentor does. You do the whole thing by yourself, but you need a mentor to give you direction. That is exactly what he did. Additionally, he also introduced me to a group of people who are now like very close friends of mine, right? We worked on the HOU summit of 2022. Then we worked on the HOU summit of 2023 together. 2022. I don't remember. Right. So I know that I worked on two HOU meetings like that. Yeah. One was online, one was in person. So yes. So then the application, as I said, he helped me with the application. The time for application could have been stressful, but it was not because as I said, I just felt fine. In hindsight, I was not that stressed. And he had eventually, once the applications were submitted, he introduced me to this group of people who were preparing an HOU virtual summit, and they were inviting all the speakers and whatnot. So it sort of kept me engaged and gave me a platform, right? To like, it was very useful. We had done a summit we had invited a lot of speakers that talked about the interview season, the cycle, and everything. It was very insightful being on the host side of it, very beneficial, and because I was involved in these things, I think it just took the stress away. And then the community that he provided, the friends that he provided, there were always someone I could talk to. That's another. Then interview preparation, then interviews started coming in. It was a difficult year. A lot of people did not get interviews 10 or above. I got like 15, so that wasn't so bad. And I think a lot had to do with the application itself. So in hindsight, I was right. You really need, no matter how phenomenal your scores are, your profile are, it's very important how you put it in the application. Because my scores were not that extraordinary. There were other people with the similar scores, 247, 263. There are people with double 250s, double 260s, some with 270s. They didn't get so many interviews as I did. Obviously, there was something in the way I structured my application. I wrote my PS, and the LORs had a lot to do with it. What somebody wrote about me. Those were the things that constitute and connections, if you could have them. Those are the things that govern how many interviews you can get. I didn't have a lot of connections. All I know is that the cardiologist I was talking about from New York, he told me that I can call any two program directors in New York City for you. And I did ask him to do that. One of them was like a Mount Sinai uh, PD, and he did that. And I got the Mount Sinai interview. Uh, yeah, and then like if you work really well, people are here always ready to advocate for University of Florida. I'm attending that. I had gotten two letters of recommendations from there. Both of them have like supported my application. They were like just they wanted me there. They were like, "Oh, come here, come here." I was like, "Okay." Um, that was one. That was another thing. So people here really support you if they find you earnest. So well, the interviews happened. Dr. Mansouri and other people helped me prepare for the interviews as well. He provided like he would like put people together, medicine with psychiatry or psychiatry with family medicine and whatnot, so that there's no like mutual feeling threatened or competition or whatnot. And people would help other people prepare for application, for interviews. And that I think interview preparation was very important for me because I have a lot of issue with nerves, a lot of issues with imposter syndrome in the past. So I just did still was not. I felt like I don't know what I was saying in interviews. That was a good idea. In US, the interview system is kind of very serious, so you want to prepare for it the correct way. So that helped. And then finally the time of preparing the rank order list and the match came. Everything went smoothly after that. I don't think from the point of my submission of my application to the point of matching, I don't think there was a lot of stress. It was entirely because I had I had backing from my new friends and my mentor. So that was most of my journey in Crocs. I can always talk about USMLE preparation of how I did it,
Yeah.
but after I have if any of you have any questions about this so far.
Yeah. So, if we have any questions, we'll take it up in the last 15 minutes.
Okay.
And till then, we can talk about your exam preparation in detail because you have such excellent scores. And, we know the value of step two these days, considering step one is
Oh
already
yeah,
pass fail.
it's a lot.
And step three might be, we don't know what's happening.
Oh yeah, I also gave my step 3 in December of the application cycle. So when students approach me, can you provide me guidance for USMLE and whatnot? And I'm always I'm quite removed from the scene. So I don't really know the USC system now these days because I did it in COVID times. It's hardly relevant. I don't know what the scene is right now, but there's one thing I can definitely help with still. It's probably USMLE preparation because I don't think that changes. It's the same U world. It's the same subject. Uh, if anything, the value of step two has gone much higher. And nowadays, people even say that it's good, even if you're not going to go for H-1B visa, it's still helpful to give step 3 because you have one more score. I think that's what people think. I know for psychiatry, step 3 is kind of very important because I have psychiatrist friends now. So probably for medicine, it could start changing now that they have removed step 1. Even if you're not applying for H-1 visa, it's just good to have 2 scores in general, I think. Anyways, so for step 2 preparation, for any step exam preparation, the I think the timeline is roughly 6 months, 6 to 8 months. It doesn't usually go to 8 months. It's usually 4 to 6 months, but I've always prepared it in 6 months. And as the step exams say, there's a step 1, 2, and then 3, and there's a reason for it because you have to strengthen your step 1. You have to have a strong foundation to be able to score really well in step 2, and that carries on in your step 3. Even though step 1 is pass fail, I would recommend really having a good grasp of those concepts. Because when you see the step 2 questions, I was surprised to find, but happy to find, that a lot of it depends on how quickly you can identify things. Now, step 2 is clinical knowledge. right? Versus step one, which is just like a lot of bookish knowledge. But the way they frame their question, in order to make that clinical knowledge decision, you have to go through a lot of fluff of the question. And a lot of it depends on how you're interpreting the data. If it's a difficult question, there's a lot of data and you're interpreting it while you're doing the questions, and you have to do each question in like what, 1 minute or so, 1 minute, 30 seconds, more ideally 1 minute, because so that you have time in the end to go back to more difficult questions and give 2 to 3 minutes to them if need be. So you want to solve questions under 1 minute. So in order to do that, you need to read that fluff, process it really quickly to understand what they're asking, and go through all the options, if it's from A to J, to find out your answer. Right? So it sounds very difficult, and it is. It is very difficult. So as I said, a lot depends on how well you have built your knowledge for step one. Okay? Because that determines how quickly you are able to process the information. Okay? So that's that. Now, how I prepared for step two was I started with UWorld. I think my number one mistake in step one was thinking that I could read Kaplan. It was outdated information, but then I had no idea of what I was doing, let's face it. So I would not, in hindsight, if it's about step one, what I would have changed is that I would not have wasted any time on Kaplan and saved 2 months of my preparation. So in step two, I started with UWorld. There were things like boards and beyond and whatnot, but I didn't want to do that. I was like, I don't even know how much I know and how much I don't know. So I wanted to do the question bank first, and then find out where I'm deficient and go back to read the text to save time, rather than reading everything and watching all the videos. I had just come out of final year, and I had read all the, as I said, all the books and everything. I didn't want to read more. I really wanted to apply and see how well I am at this point. So I started with UWorld, and another thing I've learned after step one is always do it in time mode. Never tutor. Never do it in tutor mode. Always do it in time mode. Always, what I did was I did 40 questions in the morning, and then throughout the day, I would, as much I could get time, I would like read through all of them. But I would never do it tutor mode, because in this way, it just, when you do it enough times, you get a sense of your speed. You are aware like how fast or slow you're going. I didn't need to look at the clock to find out that I'm being slow or I'm being fast. So that's tutor mode, no, sorry, the timed mode. And I did 40 questions every day. And I've never studied with a paper and a pen, so I just used Anki. Now, people use Anki for flashcards, but I use Anki to make notes. Like I would pick one topic, like if I'm solving the cardiology section and there's one at atrial fibrillation, I make a card on atrial fibrillation. And on the flip side of it, I will put in all the information that I'm getting through a question. I would not put in something that I already know, because I haven't done with step one. Any new information that I'm getting, or something that I need to, I just make Anki cards. It's so easy to find information later. You put in atrial fibrillation at any point later, you get all the cards related to it and all the questions that you had seen in relation to that. So I use that. So I would solve roughly 40 questions. No, not 40. I would solve roughly I would solve 40 questions, but I would be able to solve only 25 of them in a day. But it's fine. I was doing internship when I was in the suit and everything. I could not reach out to my phone or study. So I did best with what I had. So I think it went well. It took me like 4 months or so to do one round of UWorld like this. By that time, I already knew what my strengths and weaknesses were. And I had a stack of questions I had did wrong, and I had a stack of questions that I had marked for review. So 4 months in, this was my status. And this, before doing my second round of UWorld, I just went through all my own notes again. And I realized that I don't really need any source material. So I didn't do anything like boards and beyond or anything. It was only UWorld. So I did 4 months. I reviewed my own notes. And what else did I do? And then I did my round 2 of UWorld, which only consisted of doing the wrong questions and the marked ones. So I don't like doing a lot of questions. Like I just wanted to shorten my time to exam as much as possible. So I didn't do the entire round of UWorld second time. I just did the wrong ones and the marked ones, and I kept the marked ones to the very like minimal. I only marked something that I was like, I absolutely need to review this. So that also made sure that I didn't get burned out. This was just to ensure that I don't get burnt out, which was a big issue with step one preparation. I marked half of the questions, the other half I got wrong. And in the end, I was like, oh my God, I'm doing UWorld twice. I didn't like that. So the step two, I just kept it to minimum. And it took me like 1 month to go through all of this. And this time when I did UWorld, I slowly increased it. I would get solve like 4 hours a day, next day 5 hours a day, and then 6 hours, and then 7 hours. So when I did the UWorld the second time, when I was doing these marked and flagged questions, I would just slowly increase my hours. Okay, and then like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before my exam, I got some of the capital. No. What was that called? The other one, Amboss. I got some access to free access to Amboss for a month. It was they had done some like given some test, and if you score a certain score, you would get free access. So I got a certain score, I got free access of Amboss. I didn't bother to read through. Now there was a huge loads of reading material there as well. But I didn't bother myself with the reading material because I didn't want to confuse myself and overwhelm myself. I just used that in the last 3 weeks to just work on my speed and things. I saw eventually I started solving like 7 hours of questions. Is it 8 hours? Yeah, it is 8 hours. Anyways, I had started doing that, and by the time it was like 1 week before my exam, I was ready both in mind and in practice to give my exam, and I just gave it. I didn't do anything like for both step one and step two. I had only done UWorld essentially, no Amboss, nothing else, no NBMEs, because as I was just asking Harshita before this, how much do NBMEs cost? I forgot. It costs up to like $60. So I was quite restricted from financial point of view. Exams are already difficult. So I just didn't want to spend more. So I just skipped the NBME entirely. And I was sort of sure of where I would land. As I told you, when you do things on a like a timed mode, and you kind of it's hard not to know where you stand. I'll tell you how it's how perfect it was. I gave the exam, I came out, and when the results were out, I went home. I didn't open my results. I went home. I was scared to open my results, of course. But on the day that I was like, today I'm going to open my results. I woke up from sleep. I opened my results and I saw that the score is 263. Only it was a dream. Okay. And then I was like, the whole thing was a dream. I was sort of maybe delirious or something out of anxiety. And then I actually woke up. I was like, oh my God, I haven't really opened my scores, have I? And I was like, I don't know. In my dream, I thought that I'd scored like 263 or something. And now I don't know how much I've scored. I went and I opened my results, and it was 263 because all that practice had sort of like all that discipline. I already knew where I stood. You know what I mean? So you know yourself. I never looked at the clock during the exam to know if I'm going fast or slow. I had a very good sense of time. I had a very like good control over the questions and everything. Everything went very smoothly only because of practice. So I think the thing that I'd done wrong in step one, which I corrected in step two, was that not only my knowledge, but my practice should be right. Otherwise I will not be able to employ those things, put them into practice. So that is all. That's how I studied for my step exam. Only UWorld.
Wow.
We can delete the part where I use Kaplan. It was useless. Yeah.
It has been really nice knowing everything in detail about your journey. It is so inspiring. And it is, especially the starting when you said the struggle that you had with the family and all that. It is not easy to get out of that.
No, it's not. I mean, they
Yeah.
were shocked till the very end. Oh, you're going away. I was like, when I landed in Miami for my first USMLE, my father called me and I was like, oh, I told them, oh, I'm here. And they were like, How will we get you married? That's the first thing. Anyway, like,
Okay.
it's a whole thing. It was a whole
Yeah.
thing.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing everything in such
Yeah.
detail. So now we'll take up the questions from the participants. So the first question is, please could you explain more about how to excel in your USCE? How were you able to get like good LORs?
I think the first thing is, I mean, they can tell how earnest you are. People here are ready to help you, which I had heard from other people, but now I see it. I've experienced it. People are ready to help you. The culture is good unless you go to some toxic program. Okay, so people are, if like when I was doing USC, I won't say where I was doing it. The other people with me were being like, "Oh, how soon can we go home? Oh, I don't want to. Can we do the studying later? It's already like 2 p.m. You know, when we had gotten there at like 10 a.m. It's like your attitude speaks a lot about you, how you dress up, how you conduct yourself. You want to learn you how eager you are to take up cases and present them. If okay, you won't immediately know how to present cases correctly and whatnot, but are you learning? Are you taking the pointers from them? You know, those kind of things. I think we all can tell when somebody is eager to learn, is eager, you know, and you have to show that interest. And if they see that this person is interested in learning and growing, they will help you. They, you know, because I had come across not just once and twice. I think it almost every rotation that I went to, people were being very lax. I think, for instance, yeah, I mean, I think people were look at where I did my rotations, Miami and New York, and people I think were busy with the city life more than the rotation of the I shouldn't say that, but that's true. I think it wasn't very difficult for me to stand out because I was just earnest. I'd spent too much, I'd put too much into it to not take it seriously, I suppose, and I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So just be dedicated and honest in your
Yeah, be
rotations.
honest. I mean, what can I say? You are new here. Start by knowing the system, okay, and start taking cases, see how they present, okay, and I mean, ask them like, what is the how do you like to your presentations, and then start taking histories, performing exam. If you're doing an observership, you can still do these things under direct observation, okay, but you can still do these things. I was doing observership at University of Florida, yeah, which is in Gainesville. And I was doing an observership, but I was taking entire histories and doing examinations. Only not writing notes because it was not an elective, but those were the things I put in my LOR. How I conducted with, how my attending also commented, oh, you're really good with patients, or you really gel well with other people. They also sent me to, when you go talk to these
Mhm.
residents, and the residents
Yeah.
included me,
Yeah.
and they also included me. So it's just, yeah,
They'll
they would
consider
let me
you a
present.
team player.
Yeah, because people are very supportive. As I said, nobody's gonna show you away.
Okay, so Aditya has asked what all material you use for steps. I think we have covered that in detail.
Yeah, only you will. I said I won't acknowledge Kaplan at this point. I think it must have been a very good material in the past, but not right now. I think other than that, something that I've recommended other people I have not used myself. I think the review that I've gotten from my juniors is that Boards and Beyond is really good. It covers U word literally. That's what I've heard. That if you do Boards and Beyond before you do U word, it's like you they literally teach you U word. I think they just took U word and condensed it and made it into a book. That's
Yeah,
what they did.
yeah.
I just like doing the reverse. I like doing questions more because I've done enough of like reading. I can't read more.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Adit has asked, ma'am, can I ask my questions by audio? We'd really appreciate if you ask in the chat. Do you,
Oh, anything. I don't know.
I think because we'll then have to change the settings of
Unmute.
the, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a whole setting thing with you.
Shelby has asked, please share your experience of internal medicine residency so far. So how has it been?
Internal medicine residency is really, really good. I mean, first year is really intense. As an intern, it's really intense. I only realized it like in the last 2 months of my residency that it was really hectic, the intern year. Even though my program is really supportive. Now, New York programs are known to be toxic because they are. They really are. But not. Mount Sinai Morningside West. I think the only difficult thing about it, which is probably not the same in other programs, is that the working hours. The working hours are like still, I work up to 60 hours a week, and I think the violation is beyond 80 hours a week. And 60 hours a week, 60 to 70 hours a week is still a lot, honestly. It breaks you. I think being an intern, I started with ICU.
Oh.
So it was not the best. So I started with ICU. I had never worked with Epic. People were throwing around words like PEG or something that I did not know. So initially, it was a lot of adjustment culturally.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to Dr. Mansouri about it. And he was like, "How is your first year going?" And I was like, I feel stupid only because I'm not familiar with the things here. But once I familiarize myself with things, I'll be fine, which is exactly what happened. I've always gotten good reviews from my seniors, from everybody. Intern year is not hard. It's not hard. It's just hectic. That's what I say. It's not hard. It's just hectic. And the program is very supportive. The seniors are very supportive. Only very rarely, maybe once or twice, I've come across like toxic seniors, out of which only one was like verbally toxic. But no, the others probably were just the seniors are also being seniors for the first time. So maybe they were like not very good in the handling of the things, you know. So I would let other seniors give them a pass because it's the first time being a senior. So like some of the PGY2s I found were like not very organized, but now I'm a PGY2, so I understand better. So it just takes some time to adjust. I always the seniors were always receptive if I say like if I say that I'm feeling burnt out. I have seniors who like quit their work and be like, talk to me about it, and they would help me with it. You know, a senior. So I think my first year residency experience has been really good. Professors have been very good or whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was fine. And the fact that we come from a very like people would get burnt out here, but this is less than what I would have worked if I were back home. I'm just used to working like a mule anyways, like and so is everybody who I'm talking to right now. The system that we come from, I mean, I had to learn to let go actually. And the one thing I've learned in the first year of residency is to realize that there's a life outside of medicine and tap more into it. We're just not used to doing that. I think my biggest learning curve in residency first year was pulling myself out of residency and focusing on other things.
Okay.
Quite the opposite of what other people would say. Yes.
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah.
So Arzu has asked, I'm currently a final year MBBS student. I'm planning to give my steps by the end of next year and apply for match in 2026. What will be the most appropriate time for USCE? So currently in final year and then applying next year, 26. So I think.
As I said, next year. As I said, I think if you apply during your internship, you'll be able to get electives. And electives are sort of important because they give you epic access. And I think it's clinical versus observership, where if you land into a place where they do not, like I have friends who have gone to very good places and very good universities as observers, and they were like literally treated as like, oh, they're not even visible. You know, that can happen in observership. In elective, at least, they give you more active part. So so if you are active, you have an active role, then you're able to show your clinical acumen, and then from that comes out a letter of recommendation. You know, so you really want to do electives, clinical clerkship, acting internships if you can find them, acting internships, where basically, as the word suggests, you work like an intern, like a PGY1. You know, if you could find those, it's difficult. Acting internship is difficult, but those would be very strong letters. Electives are otherwise a clinical clerkship, where you like a medical student working with a team. Okay, it's still better than observership. I happen to be in a place where they allowed observers, like they included us in things, but I have heard of people who have been completely neglected because they were doing observerships. And you can do these clinical rotations while you are a student. So once your internship finishes, you're handed that degree, you're graduated, all you're eligible for is observership. You don't want to do that. Apply
Early.
And yeah, and try to get it during internship. For that, you'd have to, as I said, I had started working on my like TOEFL and all the requirements in September, October of final year. And I had gotten all of my paperwork and everything in line by March, by February ended March. And those are a lot of things that go into an elective application. Do you want to make sure that you do those things on time, because there's also final year that you're doing on the side, so you can't neglect that.
Yeah, so Anukriti has asked, I wanted to know how to secure an observership at IMG friendly place, considering there are very few places that provide it officially, and about physician sponsor, because how to approach a doctor to be my sponsor. I mean, why would they take me if they don't know me? I come from a college where no one has done USMLE before, so no seniors to ask.
Oh, that is difficult, which is exactly what the problem I faced, because I don't have a very strong alumni network, but I did find some. Hmm. I don't know what the scene of observership. Oh, there's a lot of cold emailing that you do. Cold emailing means that you find the faculty from different. First, you find out a list of places that you know are accepting IMGs, and then you find out the faculty, and you start sending them cold emailing. Cold emailing, it's called, because you send a lot of emails, and a lot of them you may not get a reply. So you send out, okay, you read a little bit about their profile so that you can write a small. You have to write this. A lot of work goes into this, by the way. The people that you are targeting, you try to read up a little bit on them so that you can write a personalized email. Okay. Like if you're writing to Dr. Mansouri, you read up about him, and they'll be like, hello, I'm so and so, and I'm interested in doing like a rotation with you. And then from second paragraph, you can start saying that, so I read that you are active in so and so fields, and so are so my interests. If you have something to say for that, I have studied this also, but usually medical students don't. So I want to like more I don't know, like along that line, you read up about them, and you say that you're interested in this, you want to study like more under their tutorship, yeah, get more exposure to that, and then you go from there. Like for instance, one of the people I was doing a clerkship with, he was into cardiology, electrophysiology, very specifically. All I knew was cardiology at that point, but he was like, I like electrophysiology component of subspecialty of cardiology. And he, because he knew what he liked, he had read up and like was aware of a lot of things. So when he would write emails, he would write with like, I study about your this work and I'm interested in this and whatnot. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. So what I'm assuming that what you want to do is your strength lies in the numbers. So you don't have the time to have in-depth knowledge, or might not have experience, in-depth experience to answer or to write such a detailed email. So I just say that your strength is in numbers. Try to as many people as you can, and try to make it personalized as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's the best I can say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really
It's
helps.
always
And
difficult.
just a
Yeah.
personal tip, even though I'm no one right now, you will have to do
No, no, no.
hundreds of emails and you might get like one reply. So
That's what I'm saying. That's cold emailing. A lot of
yeah,
people do that.
yeah. Shravya said, I'm a graduate yet to write my step one. How should I go about preparation and also manage the gap that might be there?
I mean, you said that you've graduated.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? Because gap, I'll tell you how gap matters. Because when you fill in the paperwork here and whatnot, that gap would be visible. You want to fill it with some experience. You don't want to show that you were sitting at home. More than like every time I fill it, make my CV, they ask me, especially if the gap is more than 5 months, explain what you were doing and all the legal documents. Luckily, none of my gaps was more than 5 months. I've never taken a gap of more than 5 months. So they ask you, like, explain your gap, because that's considered as red flag. Do something, do anything, do a job, and put that as your experience. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing is you just have to manage preparation in it with it, because it's going to be difficult if you're a graduate, like you're a complete grown up at this point. Like a lot of people are living by themselves, earning their own money, doing whatnot. It's difficult to manage, but I think you have to find that balance. find a job where you can get some time, where you can every day do some questions, but do a job. Because
Yeah.
if you have that gap, it will not look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to
Um,
find your own way how to balance things.
True. So Deep asks, best year to start prep for USMLE? I'm in second year, and someone asks, I'm in third year. So what is the
I
ideal
mean, you
time?
cannot give any exams until you have passed second year. I started actual preparation towards the beginning, like a beginning of third year, I would say. It was the beginning, it was the mid of the year itself. Yeah, I started actual preparation because, as I said, burnout is a reality, irrespective of which exam you're giving. You don't want your preparation to be stretched out and stretched really thin because at one point, what people do is that because the exam dates are flexible, people keep postponing because they're never feeling ready. And if imagine on top of that, if you're starting in second year, how much burnt out will you be? Right? Either you give at the beginning of third year, or just try to give the exams in like a span of 6 to 8 months. Don't stretch it too much because I've seen people stretch it for up to like 2 years,
Oh,
still not give the exam.
um, okay. So, what is the value of doing university rotations? This is by Mahita. If someone has a chance to do rotations without paying through personal connections at
That is a
non-affiliated.
very good question because I would tell you, yes, a university letterhead matters a lot, but I think a lot more also depends on the quality of LOR. You can do a whole, I just told you, some of the people I knew did observerships in big universities or an elective, let's say, but nobody looked at them twice. They will get a very generic LOR versus I'm talking about this doctor from New York, and that was through an agency. But he not only gave me a good LOR, he also recommended me personally to some PDs. And so I think that is stronger. I mean, of course, he was affiliated with Mount Sinai, so that goes on the LOR. But it was not hidden that the rotation was actually an outpatient and just an externship. It was like a paid rotation. It was not hidden. It was clearly not in a hospital setting. But I think that LOR was strong. So a lot also depends on the quality of your LOR. But yes, university rotations are good. If you can get a good LOR out of it. If you're doing it, obviously do it. If you have university rotation, don't let go. But make sure that you get a strong LOR out of it, not a generic one, because people will just put it aside and never look at it. Like after the first paragraph, people can tell if this is a generic LOR or not, and they'll just put it aside and tell you.
Yeah. So Sai asks, do IM programs have score filter cutoffs for interviews? Are these programs with filters of 260? I have a 256 in step 2. I'm not sure if I'll get screened out by programs.
I think filters are different programs have different filters actually. You can never say. I've seen people with 270 scores getting less than 10 interviews. And that guy actually reached out to me, like how many interviews he was compared. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the attitude and the way you prepare your application. I've seen people with 270s not having even 10 interviews in the same cycle. And then matching into a very community program,
Mm-hmm.
like a very, very simple community program. So it's not that, I mean, guy with 270 score, he obviously cleared all the filters. And yes, IM programs have filters. Uh, Programs have different filters like 220s, 230s, 240s. Everybody can find programs which can potentially accept them. Okay. I interviewed at a few programs, let's say out of my list of 15, there were half of them were community programs, like regular community programs and not academic at all. And they, in the interviews, they said that in a way they hinted that you would do good, but not at our program, because they also saw that okay, this is a candidate who is probably not suitable for a program because she's probably like higher than she would match at a program higher than a program. So they can also tell. So I think the way these programs send out interviews is that they keep their filter, let's say a program with a filter of 230, they still send out a few applicants, accept a few applicants from 240s to 50 score, but they also give enough interviews to 230 score, you know? So it's not like you will not find a place who doesn't give you an interview. You will. potentially. But it also depends on the rest of your application, like I said.
Right.
Having too high a score can also filter you out. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. The next question is similar. It says the importance of step 3 scores if you want to do fellowship.
Fellowship depends on connections and your research. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Once you're into residency, nobody's looking at your scores. Talking about your scores here is a taboo. You can't go into a program and like, oh my God, I scored like 250s and 260s and say this. You never say that. People here don't talk about scores at all. Okay. So, yeah, you score well. I don't think it makes or breaks anything. Step 3, you just have to pass it. You have to pass it. For fellowship, any fellowship, your letters of recommendations matter a lot. Your research experience matters a lot. Connections matter a lot. These 3 things matter the most. And based on how you tailor your application to show yourself as an applicant, these 3 things matter the most in fellowship, nothing else.
Soumya asks, for applying rotations, can I write TOEFL from home? Because it's not easy for me to write from test center.
I had no idea you can do TOEFL from home, but if you can, then good. For me, it was just better to be in an environment where, I already told you I'm a person who can't sit in one place, usually especially for exams. It's just being in a test center and that setting was suitable for me. If the home place suits you better, then do it from there. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I think
whichever
they give option.
Yeah. If they have that option, then go for it. Whatever suits you.
Dr. Devanshi, nice webinar, very helpful. Sorry, I joined 10 minutes late. Could you please repeat step and resources? So we'll upload the recording soon on YouTube. So
I just did UWorld. There's not a lot of love.
Then Adit, ma'am, could you share the list of hospitals your seniors gave for USCE? I can relate so much to you, ma'am. I'm currently my 3rd year and prepping for step 1, and I'm buying UWorld on Monday. Just started my dedicated. So I'm making a mistake because my exam is in October. And I have my 3rd year exams by October, and I'm only 50% prepared. So a lot going on there.
Yeah, a 3rd year exam in October and this. Okay, nice. I remember I gave my step 1 literally a month before my 3rd year exam, and I had not studied anything for my 3rd year because the 3rd year subjects are entirely different. Those were ENT, ophthalmology in my time, community medicine, and something else. I don't know. And I just prepared for them in literally 18 days because of pre-exams. Like there's a final exam, there is a pre-final exam happened on January 18 or something. I remember that. I prepared for it in 18 days. And it was something. It was like nerve-wracking. It was fun. Best of luck with that.
And Nikhil asks, can you please share step 3 prep tips? You want?
Step 3. Step 3 I gave when I was doing interview, and I just wanted, my whole idea was that I want to be done with it, and I don't want to enter 2023 with any exams. So I just booked the exams, and I did probably 40% of you, well, not even that much. I think I laid more focus on what are the 13 questions that come? Yeah,
CCS cases.
Yes, I think I've paid more attention to those, but I did not prepare for the exam a lot because I ended up scheduling them around Christmas because my December schedule was quite packed with interviews sometimes 2 interviews in a day. And I didn't have a lot of space to give step 3. So I just scheduled it on either side of Christmas. And needless to say, I did not prepare a lot, which remember that at the beginning of this webinar, I said that if you prepare well for the previous steps, it just carries over to the next. I think that helped. Because I remember when I had gone for the exam, Dr. Mansuri, the group that he has with us, people were chatting on it, and I came out of the exam and started chatting with them. They said, go back to your exam. Yeah, I was just not taking it very seriously, but I think just my practice and the knowledge that I had built from step 1 and 2 had just carried over, and I was able to give those 2 days of exam. But I did pay attention to CCS cases because those were new. But I did not sit or practice for the exams. I did not do a lot of questions. But by that time, I had conditioned myself that I could definitely give 6 hours on it of exam. It was all my step one and step two practice that was kicking in. And I did score like 249. So it wasn't so bad.
No, it's a great score.
Yeah, it is a good score. I mean, considering how I prepared, it is a good score. Yeah.
Ma'am, can we connect, please? I would really love to have a senior who is living my dream right now. Also, could you share the US list? So I'm sure Dr. Vash will share some
Yeah.
email or some contact information.
I can say some of those because I don't know if I have that folder right now. It was in my old computer, which is broken. But I'm pretty sure I do remember some of the programs that I applied to off the top of my head. But I think the scene has changed a lot. But I can still say there was University of North Carolina, University of Illinois, UNC, UIC. There was, as I said, FIU, Florida International University, University of Florida, University of Connecticut. A lot of people also applied to Mount Sinai. And I have seen people, international students doing rotations. So it's difficult to get through, and the application is very expensive. I would not have applied because of the financial restriction. But if you can, if you're ready to roll the dice, then go ahead. Mount Sinai, what else? Oh, Texas Tech University.
Cleveland Clinic.
Oh, Cleveland Clinic and Johns Hopkins. These are some of the places. Oh yeah, NIH. NIH. I had so dearly prepared an application for NIH. I think everything I was building towards in my preparation for electives was for preparing an application for NIH. That included a TOEFL of more than 116. They're very specific about TOEFL. You need speaking or something more than 28, and they want your overall score to be more than 116. So I was preparing an application for NIH. It needs to be like, UAB, University of Alabama. Let me think if I'm missing. I'm repeating: University of North Carolina, University of Illinois, UIC, UNC, UIC, Florida International University, University of Florida, University of Connecticut, Mount Sinai, Texas Tech University, University of Alabama, Cleveland Clinic, NIH, National Institute of Health, Johns Hopkins.
I think Sinai, Baltimore, also gives
invitations. Okay, I did not know that. Okay, add Sinai, Baltimore. And then more I know is that I think Bronx Care also gives Bronx Care. I found out about this later, but I did not apply to these. Bronx Care in New York.
Yeah. And then Sonia asks, "Hi, ma'am. I'm a final year student, and I completed my step one. Now, should I apply for electives now? I don't know anything about which university. So universities, I think we just mentioned. Or should I do observership after internship?" And I think you answered that as well, that electives over observerships.
Electives over observerships. And the things with elective is that, I mean, you can if you have given your step two, then you also have a score to go with it. But the key with electives is applying as soon as possible. Okay, don't worry. Like when you're preparing an application for electives, time matters a lot more than quality. Of course, you cannot apply with a shitty application, but like when every place asks for a PS, just don't write a trashy one. Write a decent one. That will do. Okay, just don't write something that they can use to throw you away. Just write a decent one. Don't be worked up about it. If you have given step two, then good, you have another score. If not, then don't fret too much. You can be preparing for step two on the side and start applying with your step one. Get a good TOEFL score, and just, as I said, applying, it's more like an early bird situation. Like the sooner they're not really going through your application or scrutinizing. It's not residency. You're applying for an elective. They're not scrutinizing your application. They're just like first come, first serve basis. It's very random. So that's why it is scary. Just apply as soon as possible. Like, for example, there's a certain date that UAB opens. And by day two, you will not have spots.
Yeah, they have like year turnaround. So
exactly. Yeah. By day two, you will not even have spots. Forget about having a perfect application. Just write a decent one so that you don't get excluded. Like, don't write something trash that will be like, this person is psycho. Okay, we are not inviting this person. Just write a decent one that is enough to get through. That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can you mentor me more? Step one, I'm finally a student from Gujarat. So we'll talk about mentoring sessions from Humans of USMLE soon, and I'm Dr.
Oh
Esha Vaish
yeah.
is a very important part of Humans of USMLE.
So what happens? The first year internship, I was not able to participate a lot in with Humans of USMLE. I'm open to mentorship, but because I'm also doing residency on the side, and I'm also preparing for a fellowship application and whatnot, and this is my second year, so it's not going to be that easy. So Humans of USMLE hopefully have been planning to come up with a platform where you can be somebody who's eager to teach, like they can provide you like an Uber for tutors. Like anybody who has qualifications can come up, like tutor a certain number of people or provide guidance, one-on-one mentorship. You can get that. But Humans of USMLE will come up with these platforms. I will work through that. Right now, I don't have space for direct tutorship. Not in my second year. It just began.
Yeah, so it's in the works. So yeah, we'll talk about
It's in the
yeah
works. Yeah.
mentoring session. Okay, this is interesting, ma'am. How much can we save in New York as medicine resident? I'm asking if I can take the whole
I save up
USMLE
to
journey
$1,000 a month.
on loan.
Oh,
Uh,
on loan?
no, it's they're asking if I can save the whole, if I can take the whole USMLE journey on loan. How much time will it take to repay it? It's a very personal, like,
I don't know. I mean,
direct
I
question.
understand that. I remember having this fight with my father because he didn't want to take any loan, and that is why everything was very restricted. So I understand that question.
Mhm.
So savings in US depend a lot on how much you are willing to save. Even in New York, like people go penniless in New York. I'm able to save at least $500 to $1,000 a month, and not without having, like, I do have fun. I do go out. It's just you have to be sensible with your expenditure. And if you're some months I go, like if I have like some months I may go without any saving, but that's fine. I compare it. Happened probably 2 months last over there based on I was just doing my finances yesterday. So I probably there were only 2 months when I was not able to save up to $1,000. I mean everything balanced out. So I'm doing okay in New York City while having fun. I'm going for an art class tomorrow. It costs a good amount of money. But yeah, it just depends on how you have to find out what you want to save on, how you want to save. You have to find a strategy and you'll be able to save. And if you're able to save, then as said, like up to $1,000 a month, even if 500, at the end of 12, you'll have like $6,000. Even if you save $500 at the end of 12 months in New York City. And a lot also depends on, if you're talking about New York City, depends on your program. I should mention that Mount Sinai provides housing. I live next to Columbus Circle. I live like literally at a corner of Central Park. The Hudson is the other way. But I am provided housing by Mount Sinai and my rent is like 1,500. Okay, so it's because this is the area where rent doesn't go below 2,500 or 3,000. I should mention that. So people in other programs, they don't provide housing, I suppose. Yeah. I think if it weren't for Mount Sinai, I would not have like ranked any other program higher. So New York is very difficult to save in residency. Other places you will be able to, like I know people in other programs in other cities who go on to buy houses by the end of 1 year and or second year, move into houses. But yes, in New York City it would be difficult. I forgot to mention the part where my program provides subsidized housing. And the salary that Mount Sinai provides is also high. If you look at the salary provided by all the New York programs, Mount Sinai pays decent amount of money. And our student union, sorry, our resident union is always negotiating for increasing the pay. Again, it increased this year. So a lot has to, I think it has to do with Mount Sinai that I'm able to say. Yeah.
Um,
I would have been penniless in other programs. Yeah.
and then we have a lot of questions from Adit. So I think he has to talk to you about a lot. So I think if you could share your email or something like that, he'd be able to reach out. because it's like 3 more questions. So do you want me to ask them
Go
now,
ahead.
or do you want to?
No, you can ask me questions. I can go on at length. It's a Saturday. I don't have
Okay,
work today.
perfect. Because I was worried because we have already exceeded time, so I just wanted to
No, it's
confirm.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, did you try for competitive specialties apart from IM, I guess?
No. I
Um,
knew that I didn't want to do surgery, pediatrics, OB/GYN, or anything else. I mean, there are few specialties that I had no idea about. Let's face it, because it's not, we don't get an exposure like anesthesiology and whatnot. But I don't know if for IMGs it's accessible because I never developed any potential interest in anesthesiology because I didn't get exposure as a medical student. How would I know that you would want to do? Because the lifestyle of anesthesiology is really good, by the way. The pay is really good. But maybe, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I have just never explored that. So
okay. The universities that you mentioned, they are IMG friendly for non-VSLO colleges. Yeah, those were the non-VSLO colleges, I think.
my college did not have BSLO.
Yeah.
So as I said, answering questions about electives and observerships, it's kind of difficult because first thing first, my college was a non-VSLO. Then on top of that, I was doing all of that in the midst of a pandemic. So it's very difficult to answer questions about these programs because I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they would be right now. I only saw how they were in pandemic. So
Okay.
maybe through VSLO, through a VSLO, it's always a better chance of getting things, I guess.
And the last
So
question here is, oh, sorry to interrupt.
what? Interrupt what?
Oh, I thought you were. So my step one is in October, and I will buy UL soon. What can I expect? Like, what challenges to expect in this?
I think the only challenge people face while doing UL is that consistency is a huge issue. Finding continued motivations because irrespective of what you're doing, either you're a med student or a graduate doing something else, you see other people in your life and doing entirely something else. Like they're doing Indian PG or something. They're running a different road. When you Here's the thing with competition. When you're doing something that when you're following the herd, when you're following a herd like a sheep, then at least the pace of the herd makes you keep up your pace. You know what I mean? You'll know if you're going too slow, if you're going too fast. But if you're walking on your own, you never know when you've lost motivation, if you're going too slow, if you're going too fast. So I think that's the issue. That's the biggest problem that people face with any USMLE prep or any step of this entire journey is that losing courage very easily and whatnot. Yeah, lacking motivation. I told you about people who keep postponing exam for up to 2 years because they can.
So someone is asking what visa is your residency on? I think they've already
Hmm?
talked about it. Visa.
Visa? What visa? What?
They're asking what visa are you on currently?
I'm not going to answer like personal questions. I just say there are H1B visa and J1 visa. And
How
some
do
people work on both. Yeah. Go ahead.
how do I prepare for an elective rotation? I don't want to fumble like during university visas. Also, would appreciate tips to survive the first month in New York City. You mentioned you had a cultural shock in the first few weeks.
Yes, because I come from Gorakhpur. I mean, to me, even Delhi is cultural shock,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, yeah, you just, at the end of the day, you have to find courage to go out and explore. That's it.
Mm,
Anything. That's it. That's it.
and then,
Yeah. And learn. Like you should allow yourself to be molded. You can't adhere to your strict whatever you know. You should learn that okay, I may have to unlearn a few things because it's a new culture, new thing. New York City is also a shock because you see a lot of people doing a lot of weird things. As long as they're not threatening anybody, if they're just being themselves, you just let go. A lot of acceptance. You can't go around being like, oh, that person is weird, that is weird. I mean, the way we would mock people if we were in our own, because anybody who looks different is here, everybody's different. Nobody's eccentric in New York. So you live and let live. That's easy.
Mm, and then is research important for IM residency?
I think now it is. Although the very good places, they always assured me in interviews as well, if you do not have a huge research background, we don't mind. But I think for IMGs, it always gives you a plus point. So yeah, go for it. I mean, if there's one thing, Harshita had I mean, if I have to say if one thing I could have changed, I don't regret anything in my journey. But if there's one thing I could have changed, but I would not have been able to, is that I would have gone for a year of like a year or two of research in the US. So there are a lot of research positions and labs here, and you can do a research year or two. You can do a PhD or something, but because that would require you living in the US on your own money, at least for 6 months or so. I don't know. And my parents would not have paid for it, and I was not earning. I was a med student, fresh out of like med school. So if I I would have definitely wanted to work in a research position in the US if I could have helped them. Yeah.
Then what all things we can do to make our CV strong?
I mean, look at the CV. It's with the components. You'll find out the ERA CV. It has components of experiences, research experience, volunteer experience, work experience. Work experience, the USC you do. Clinical volunteer experience is whatever you do at home. It has to be legit. You can't just put anything. Yeah, help somebody in the roadside. No, you have to work with organizations like WHO and whatnot. That gives you a good work experience. You know, uh, that's with loads of things. And then there's a research experience, which I just said, like not everybody can do a research, everybody can do like case reports and whatnot. It's hard to come by. Then that's one section. The other section, important component, is your personal statement. Uh, in order to write a good personal statement, you really need to know yourself. Okay, and not a lot of people know themselves because we're not brought up that way. We are not brought up to think like an individual, right? So a lot of people, we don't we don't know about ourselves. A lot of people at 27, they're still figuring themselves out versus people in the US who always know themselves most of the time. So writing a good person statement is kind of necessary. Then letters of recommendations, 4 preferably, and 3 at least, and good ones. And I already talked about how you can try to manage for a good one. Then there's your MSP and medical school transcript. People did ask me questions about my MSP, by the way. They read everything, okay, when they interview you. So MSP and medical school transcript, your medical school scores cannot look too bad. Okay, they can break you. They don't give you extra points, to be very honest. I mean, if you're a model student medical school, they don't care. Okay, your application is built based on your experiences, your LORs, your personal statement, and what is the thing I mentioned? And the interview, I guess. I don't know where was the last thing. These are the 3 or 4 things that make your application strong. Other things can only break it, like a bad MSP can only break it. A bad medical school transcript can only break it, but cannot add more things. Yeah, the hobby section and whatnot. If your hobby section is empty, can definitely break it. Yeah, but if you have a good, interesting thing that is going on that somebody finds, like, okay, I want to talk more about this, and they'll give you it. But it's not going to make a huge difference. The main thing is about your experiences, LORs, and PS. Those are the 3 main things. If I'm not missing anything else. Yeah.
The difference between H1B and J1 visa.
That's the HOU holds a lot of like seminars on visa, and there are a lot of available on the like YouTube as well. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details.
Yeah.
It's just that on J1, it's a work visa, so you are allowed to stay in the country as long as you are employed, and after first year, like every time you go back to India, you need to get it re-stamped or whatnot in order to come back to the US every single time. And it's hectic because if the wait period is more than 4 weeks or so, then you're stuck. and you can't come back to work. That's something that gives people a lot of nervous breakdown, I've seen. And the fact that on J1 visa, you need to do a waiver. And if you, let's say, I was just hearing one of my cardiology fellows, he's going into interventional cardiology and he's on J1. Now, being on J1 visa makes it easy to match into fellowships, but it makes waiver jobs to get them is very difficult. For an interventional cardiologist to get a J1 waiver job, they have to, I don't know what remote parts of the country, because it means that you have to go to underserved areas, so it's hard. So this is one thing my senior said recently. One of my seniors, he's from Britain. So I was talking to him about, he was on J1, he wants to apply to gastroenterology, but he's going back. He was already PGY3, and I said, "Oh, you're on J1 and whatnot." So I was talking about visas with him. He said that yes, getting fellowships on H1B, the competitive ones, not other ones. You can get other fellowships. The top 3 fellowships, it's difficult to get on H1B, but that's the thing. That's just 1 year that you have to work hard and find a way to survive. After that, it's easier, like your second year or whichever you choose to apply. But J1 people like to keep on suffering. That's the difference. Yeah.
Okay, how did you realize that IM was your calling? We can go for neuropeds as well, which are comparable in competitiveness.
Exclusion. I just excluded everything else. That's how I solved my MCQs as well. I never go to a direct answer. I always exclude other things, so it was easy.
Then I am 4 years out of graduation, 2019 graduate.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in India as JR in medicine, and now I'm in Canada and want to pursue USMLE. Please guide for step 1 and gap, what I can do in Canada.
You already mentioned that. Just don't have a gap of more than 5 months in your work experience. And I think transferring from Canada to US it's relatively easier than coming from India to US, because they recognize that the healthcare system, I mean, it's more familiar. I'm not really sure about the Canada